All right. Hey, welcome everybody. This is the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. You're in for a special treat today. I'm glad you're here. We got a special guest. His name is Alex Cedillo. Cedillo. I'm sorry.
Cedillo.
Cedillo. Okay, cool. So he's
Yes.
in Houston, Texas, doing a lot of really cool creative deals and in multiple markets. And so we're going to be talking about how Alex is doing his lease option deals, his owner financing subject to deals, creative deals in Texas and also in other markets around the country. We've met a few times before, and I saw some of what he was doing, and I said, man, hey, can I get you on the podcast? Let's talk about it. But first, couple things, announcements real quick. This podcast is brought to you by my new book. Yes, REI Secrets, Daily Nuggets of Real Estate Investing Wisdom. Daily Nuggets of Real Estate Investing Wisdom to help you get more leads. My mission goal in this book is real simple: to inspire you a little bit, to help you get more leads and close more deals. Each chapter is about 2 pages long, 3 pages long, and just little inspirational tips and tricks and secrets and things like that can really help you in your business to do more deals and make more money. And really amazing book. I love this, and it's thick too. It's a monster, and you can get it for free. Just pay a little bit of shipping and handling. I'll send it out to you. Go to reisecrets.com, reisecrets.com. Cool. Also, if you like this podcast, I'm going to ask you to please leave a review. Go to iTunes, even Stitcher. I think you can leave a review in Stitcher. Leave a review, subscribe to the show. Let us know what you think. And I'd really, really appreciate it. Cool. All right. That's all I've got for announcements. Let me just look at here real quick. If you want my book, again, go to reisecrets.com, reisecrets.com. One more thing too, we're recording this right now. And it's going to be published later as an audio podcast. But a lot of you guys are watching right now on YouTube and Facebook. And I just want to say hello to you all. And if you want, as we go through this podcast, please type in the comments in YouTube or in Facebook, and we can see them here. Type in the comments. Tell us hello. Tell us where you're from. And if you've got any questions for me or Alex, then type them in the comments of YouTube or Facebook and even Periscope. And we'll answer your questions live here on the podcast. Cool. All right. We even got one. Sweet. Just as I said that. Of course, Skip, faithful Skip, man. He's always saying hello. And Skip is here from Facebook. What's up, Skip? Thanks for being here. Cool. All right. So this is again live. And if you got questions or if you want to give feedback or comments, criticisms, whatever, just say hello. Like we've got somebody right here from San Antonio, John Mooney, who's watching us on YouTube right now. How you doing, John? Glad you're here. All right. Cool. Anything else? Do you have any announcements, Alex?
No, man. I'm excited actually about your book. I want to get do you have that on audio?
Yes and no. Okay. So I've not read this book, but I have the podcasts that these chapters came from. So one of the things that I think will be available, and I'm still working on it, is getting the podcasts that were the chapters of this book came from available for folks. Cool. Hey, we got one more guy. Brian is here. When will the book drop? It'll start going out this week as we're recording this live. Yeah. And Justin, what's up, Justin? What's going on? Hey, got another one. Franco. Hey, it's one of the OG Joe, one of the pioneers. What's OG? Old guys. Is OG old guys?
It's all the gray that we're showing here, right here.
It's a sign of wisdom. That's why I don't color my hair, man.
There you go.
I want wisdom. I want you all to know how wise I am. Bobby from New Jersey, thank you for being here. Okay, cool. So Alex, you're in Houston right now. We should say a word of prayer for the Houston Astros who are behind. I like Houston.
That's brutal.
I like Houston. Man, and I like the team. Jose Altuve, the guy is just amazing.
That dude's awesome. He's amazing.
So I'm pulling for Houston, even though my Cardinals are not in the World Series right now, but I'm pulling for Houston. So cool, man. So you've been doing deals for a long time. I think you were telling me 20 something years. Is that right?
Yeah. Just a little over 20 years now. Started in 99. Started my education learning. I have an insurance background. I was an insurance broker, licensed insurance broker for the state of Texas and California. And so I was doing that for businesses. And then try to make a long story short, we had a recession back in '97. So
Yeah.
some guys probably don't know. Now they know how old I am or my age, right?
Yeah.
Getting there. So I decided to pull my money out and wanted to invest it in something else, another business or whatever. I'd rather lose my money myself. I lost 62% of my 401k, so it was very frustrating. Next to wanting to choke somebody out, one of the brokers and whatnot. So I started looking around, found the real estate club locally, started going to the events, found a mentor, and then that's all she wrote. Started learning everything I needed to know from there.
Awesome. And this was in Texas.
Yes, correct. In Houston. Yeah.
I remember the late 90s, early 2000s. Texas was really hit hard, especially with this
Yeah.
recession. And, it had a lot to do with the local business industry in Texas. And
Correct.
yeah. So, you've seen a couple cycles, right? A couple recessions up and down. You've survived. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from the recessions that you've
Uh,
seen?
I'd say, well, the recession, like the first one was bad. I just didn't understand it. I didn't look at it because I wasn't really involved in looking at the economy and the way things ran. When I got into real estate and I started learning all the nuances and the different niches and strategies and getting into it and actually doing the business, not just book smart, but actually getting the field experience, the
Yeah.
education of getting stuff done, completely different. Um, 2007, 2008, with the mortgage crash. Uh, it's funny because I can see it coming. I just didn't understand it, so I didn't really understand how to look at it and how to gain from it. So all you know is there was a lot of things, and as you know, in Houston or in Texas, for the most part, Houston, we had floods as well. We had the hurricanes, so we
Yeah.
have multiple crashes, if you want to call it that. Houses going under and whatnot. So we had a lot of challenges, but you couldn't really see how fast the recovery was going to be. I was back and forth. I was actually in Los Angeles when a lot of this happened, and everybody there was telling me like, "You're crazy. You're from Texas. You don't know what you're talking about. We don't have crashes here." You
Yeah.
know,
I
people were
remember hearing
just
that from
buying.
people.
It was crazy, and so
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't make sense. There's
Yeah.
something going to happen, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But for the biggest thing that I've learned, that I would say is always stick to your numbers.
Mm.
Don't deviate from your numbers. And I was very fortunate in that I didn't have to file bankruptcy or anything like that because I've always stuck to my numbers. And maybe that's just because I was in insurance. I've always, added some margin in there just for mistakes, errors, longer days on the market, whatever the variable was going to be. So
What are some of those numbers and I totally agree. I think this is really, really good advice.
yeah,
Everybody listening to this needs to pay attention because not if, but when the market goes down again, it may not be as big as what we saw 10 years
right.
ago, but when it happens, if you want to protect yourself, you need to understand the fundamentals. You need to understand the numbers that Alex is going to be talking about here. So what are some of those numbers for you, Alex?
Well, like numbers you're talking about, when you're
Well,
buying is basically like your original. How do you buy your 70 percenters, whatever the case
yeah.
is? There's a
Uh-huh.
couple of variables in how you break that down. And some markets, like in some areas of California, you can actually buy and use those numbers. Not all of them. You can do them in lower markets like Georgia or Texas and that kind of thing. It makes more sense, the 70% margin, less repairs. So
Yeah.
that's the old MAO, make your offer, that kind of thing. But you really got to truly understand the difference and understand what that 70% margin is, less the repairs. So what's the makeup of that? That's that 30% that you're accounting for. Is that 30% margin? Profit margin? No. There's a variable in there for your holding costs, hard money, if that's going to be hard money. Are you paying cash? You private money? What do you expect on holding? That 30% only accounts for 3 months. A lot of these people, and today, as you see, wholesalers, I get a lot of wholesalers sending me stuff like that. Now I became the hunter. I do a multitude of strategies. Uh, I'm pretty much my own fisherman. I have my team. This is what we go after, and we buy deep or we buy super creative. So it's got to work, and that's kind of like some of the biggest focuses you got to work on to understand that where your numbers are is going to determine if you got enough margin for error, or are you overcompensating, and you can sit there and go do a wholesale, couple of wholesales rather than just one flip, or one wholesale rather than just one flip, and make more money or just as much without the risk.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love wholesaling for that very reason, right? Because in
Yes.
that same time that I fix and flip that house and put all that money and resources and risk and liability in flipping that house, like rehabbing it, right? I could have
Yeah.
wholesaled 3 or 4 houses during that same time and made just as much money, if not more. So there's something to be said with making a quick nickel versus a slow dime. I'd rather make a
Correct.
bunch of quick nickels than a few slow dimes, because that money is, there's less that can go wrong. And you're in and out of the deals. You're just trading paper. Really is the kind of the way.
Correct.
That's my philosophy on it. So let's, about the numbers, like when you're looking at a deal, maybe to hold for cash flow, right? What are your
Yes.
minimum cash flow numbers? Do you have like cap rates or ROIs, or just like monthly dollar amount that you've got to make on a deal like
I
that?
don't, in my eyes, my opinion, I don't use a true ROI.
Okay.
I look at it from a dollar perspective,
Okay.
because for cap rates and ROIs, to me, that's more of a commercial grade type method,
Sure. Sure.
formula, because it's a numbers game, right? You got 10 doors under one roof. It's an apartment complex or strip center, whatever the case is, 7 doors versus one house, you know. So to me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, I know other people talk about it and they preach about it, but for me, just in my head, it just, I can't I can't really put that together. I mean, I can, but I don't look at it as a value. To me, I look at it from a solid dollar perspective. What's the long term? Because if you sit there and if you really minimize and you're trying to make a deal that's not a deal, when it goes up, which I've learned this actually in the early 2000s when we had a lot of this before the crash. Everybody was building. You got new houses, and people were getting these loans with no money or 3%, brand new house. Their taxes went up, and it went up where their payments became from $1,500 to 18 or $2,000 because of the taxes. So there were all these variables that would jump up, and it didn't make sense. So for me, when I look at it from that perspective. Is it is an older property? What's the term on it? Look at the rate and term of the loan itself. What's the seller's situation? What's their motivation? Everybody talks about motivation, but they don't really dissect the motivation. And I like to dissect it in 3 different ways to really understand how deep the motivation is, and then where you can get creative in doing a lease option, subject to doing a wrap, whatever the case is, and where can you bring the value to that seller, be genuine and be authentic, and really trying to help them out, and then you get to benefit from that as well.
Yeah, I agree. You can't be a one-trick pony and succeed, especially as the
No,
market starts shifting and changing, because
correct.
what one strategy might have worked a year ago may not work as well today or next year, right?
Right.
So you come to it when you're meeting with the seller. Well, first, before I get into that, let me ask you, what does your
Yeah.
business look like today? How many deals are you guys doing? How many markets are you in?
Basically throughout Texas, Southern California for LA, and South, mainly the LA County area. Texas, Houston, some San Antonio, Dallas markets. Hard to do Austin because you pretty much got to be boots on the ground there. So it's a little bit challenging to get to that seller first. And then what else? I'd probably say some Georgia and some Florida. And that's pretty
Okay.
much it.
What are you
So
doing
they
mainly with
vary.
that? Are you wholesaling? Are you
Wholesaling. So I'm doing a lot of virtual wholesaling. We're doing a lot of wholesaling. So I got one business part for the wholesaling business, and that's MrDeedsBuysHouses.com. So that's a lead generator, a branding company, if you want to call it that. And then I funnel that over to my flip company, Flip Street, or National Property Investors for the wholesaling side. So I'll get that out to somebody like yourself, another investor that wants to buy it, for cash flow, for a flip, whatever they're trying to meet their needs, right? So those are the variables. I'll put that out there. I'll wholesale it, or I'll buy it, fix it, and I'll flip it, or I'll do something like I did with this property, and I kept it long term because it's nice property, forced appreciation, that kind of thing. So everything from wholesaling to fix and flips to rentals to owner finance to creating the notes and selling the notes.
Yeah.
So it's just being creative where those opportunities lie.
What does your team look like right now?
I'm down to about 4 people, and I'm looking to hire about another 4 more.
Okay.
So I'm just, cycling it out. People do what they do, they get good, and then they want to go off and run off and do their own thing, so which is fine. Blessings to them. And so that's pretty much it. So I'm just revamping that, putting more automations, SOPs in place so I can get that cycled out so we can get back up to about, I'd say 25, 30 deals a month.
Okay.
What we're looking at.
And what kind of marketing are you doing every month?
Pretty much mailers. Long story short, I lost my system. Somebody that was with me took the whole system.
Oh, really?
So I'm having to reset everything, basically marketing campaigns for different list types, pre-foreclosures, your typical stuff. And then you get your creative customized list that you'll do, doing some text blasting, voicemail blasting, cold calling. So I got some VAs to work on those, set up the appointments, do multiple touches for each one, so we could try to wrap our hands or anchor that deal as much as we can with better FaceTime with the sellers.
Okay. What percent of your deals would you say are virtual versus, you're going to go and meet them in person, go to their house?
I'd probably say the majority of what we're doing is local. So we're pretty much, I'd probably say about 70% is all local,
Cool.
face-to-face kind of thing. And then the rest of it's virtual.
Good. All right. Why don't you talk about what's a good example of a deal that you've done before that you had to really get creative on the deal? You did some marketing. The seller called you and wanted to sell, but for some reason they couldn't take your cash offer, so you had to get a little creative on the deal.
Very good question. There's a lot of those deals that are out there like that, where it doesn't meet the 70% margin, less the repairs. It just doesn't work. And if you're a wholesaler, it doesn't work because you pretty much whittle your numbers out. Now, people are buying at a higher percentage now. I'm seeing everything going for like between as much as 78% to as much as 85%, as is, not even less repairs. So there's the variables if it's cosmetic fixer versus a full rehab, right? However, for the most part, when you're looking at that, I've done one that I did that was in LA. I think that was one of my top 3 creative multiple deals, most creative deals, where I got the seller to pay me to take over their payments. So that was kind of cool. I never tried that before. I didn't want the deal. So that's why I told them, I need you to pay me, $28,000 and something. So I'll take it over. Long story short, on that one, I did a short on the 4th lien, I wiped out the 4th lien, did a short on the 3rd lien. It was a 3rd mortgage. I did a short on the 2nd mortgage. I did a subject to on the 1st mortgage. And then I sold it on an owner finance with a balloon.
Nice.
The other deal that I did recently was here. I got a referral by a broker. The deal needed a lot of repairs, a lot of work. Had 4 liens on there. There was an HOA lien. So that was the 4th lien. But you can't get away from the HOAs over here. You just got to pay those. And they're very difficult. When you're trying to negotiate, your fees continue to go up. So you got to be careful when you think you're going to try to negotiate with an HOA lien, because they're sending that stuff off to the attorney. And every time that attorney sees that email, receives that call just to respond or ask a question, they're charging. $300-500 every single time. It gets
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
The third lien was a property tax lien. I ended up paying that, and I had the seller pay me back on an auto draft payment program so he can get out because his credit was very important to him. The second mortgage, I did a short. It was about $58,000. I paid it off at about $5,500. And then the first lien mortgage, what I did was I did a subject to. I did all this, and I risked. And I did a subject to, so I took over the lien. But then I, with working with the seller, I said we got to do a loan modification.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
did the loan modification. And I structured it from a 7.9% interest rate down to I think it was a 3.8%,
Yeah.
3.7% interest rate.
And
So
you
I
got
restructured that.
the loan current. You got the seller current on the
Correct.
loan.
Correct. And then I got it current, started making payments, put it in a trust. I do everything when I'm doing the creative deals. I put them in the land trust, and then I manage it from the land trust and then get the beneficial rights and control it that way.
I was just talking to Lou Brown yesterday. Do you know Lou
Oh,
Brown?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Lou
baby.
Brown. Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
big into trusts, and I'm going to be interviewing
Yes.
him in a few days here, talking about
Nice.
trusts. Super important. If anybody out there that understands trust, he's one of the main guys that does that very well. Cool. All right. So the deals so these are deals. Those two that you just gave me, they're deals you're staying in the middle of, right? You're
Yes.
buying
Well,
it.
the other one, I already sold it.
Okay.
This one, the second one, I held on to it. It's going to be a long term because if you looked at the numbers, I forced depreciation up to about $150,000
Hmm.
of equity added.
So did you sell it on a wrap to an owner occupant, or did you sell it as a
Yes.
lease option to a tenant buyer?
The first one I sold it. So I had multiple strategies on the front end, right? By the time I cleaned it up on the back end, I sold it on a lease option. And then I converted it over to an owner finance and then with the balloon for a payout.
And the balloon came, they cashed you out with their own traditional mortgage afterwards.
Yes. Yes.
Nice, beautiful. So
Yeah.
this deal you're just talking about that you just did, the buyer that's in there now, what's your deal with them? What's your agreement with that buyer?
The second one, actually, that's company owned. I just keep it and benefit from it because it's a big house, got a pool. It's kind of like a playground, huge yard. It's just,
Okay.
I mean, it's a great looking place. It's very quiet. There's a bunch of corporate execs that live around here.
So that is that the
Big
house you're in?
lots.
That's the house you're
That's
in
the
right
one
now?
I'm in now. Yeah.
Ah, okay, cool. Very
Yeah.
nice. So what percentage of your deals are creative like that versus just straight up cash wholesale?
I'd probably say actually today, the way things are going right now, they're probably about 20%, 25% of those.
Are
Of those
creative?
deals that we're getting, they're creative. I just bought another one in Deer Park, and that was a subject too. So I think one of the things that people need to be aware of when they're trying to get into the creative financing subject to strategies, or even, well, I won't say the lease options, but understanding what their exit strategy is, they got to understand what the front end is because there's people out there trying to wholesale subject tos
Mm.
to investors like myself, but they don't understand that they can't get a title policy if it has an FHA loan on it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some of those type of things, just those little red flags that come up, and they don't understand that. So, again, this is why I don't understand why people sit there and complain about not wanting to get mentoring or coaching. It's too expensive, this, that, and the other. They want to pay, $200-300 to make 10, 20,000, $50,000. Makes no sense.
Mm.
So it's
You-
kind of like, and I mean that's kind of like one of my tips and that I
Yeah.
tell people that you definitely need to find somebody to
Yeah.
at least be a mentor to you.
That can help you with those creative deals and structure them because you got to make sure it's structured right from the beginning. Right.
Correct, correct.
Talk about a bad deal, a deal that went bad. That because we all have them, right? We all have
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
deals. What was
yeah.
one of yours?
I'd probably say one of my worst deals was it had to do with a bad tenant that I didn't know. I had a deal that I bought that was a subject to. Um, Took over the payments. It was a great deal. Higher end area of the Houston West side of Houston area, and I did the rehab. I bought it, did the rehab, made it real nice, fixed it up. Higher end, kind of the structure of the interior of it. Back then I think the median price of a house was about 120 to 150,000, and this was a $320,000 house.
Hmm.
So, I got really good, I think I got too big for my britches, didn't realize what I was doing. I did this, put it out on the market to rent it so I can cash flow it. Um, Lady drives up in a two seat BMW, one of those little sports cars, two-piece pantsuit, whatever the case is. Got the application, got a check, this, that, and the other. I was back and forth going to LA at the time, and I didn't do the background check. Even if I would have done the background check, I didn't know what to do. So when you're kind of going too fast and you don't go down your checklist, that makes for error and costs you lots of money. So that
Yeah.
deal, I ended up having to call another investor to take over so that way he can do the eviction and go through that process with them. Uh, but he gave me $5,000, but overall I lost $68,000 on that deal
How?
through the equity and the rehab and the money that I put into it from the bringing it current
Oh, okay.
through that whole process. So, equity, but a lot of money to bring it current, take over the payments while I was in rehab, and then the rehab costs and everything else.
So then what happened to the tenant? Did they just stop paying? Did they trash the property?
Oh my God. No, they were what they call the professional tenants. So
Uh,
they knew how to avoid go and file and then petition for the court to postpone, in which they did multiple times. I think they stayed in the property for about 8 months before I got rid of it. And I was in LA, so I was making payments on auto draft. So whenever I do my subject twos, I always put everything into create the online file, set it all
yeah.
up, so that way I can do it on auto draft, so I don't have to worry about it. And then I just worry about the tenants making sure that they're paying me. If not, then I get the attorney on them, get the process, and get it done. Have the management company, process that.
So you had a tenant that understood the systems, like the
Hmm.
loopholes, and was
Hmm.
able to live rent free for 7, 8
About
months.
it. Yes,
Oh, it's disgusting. That
it
makes me
was.
that makes me so mad.
And
I've
I
had
didn't
those
know what to
before.
do.
So
Yeah.
if you would have done a background check, what could have avoided that? How could you have avoided
Uh,
that problem?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what would have been on her credit. I don't know if there was an eviction on there. I don't know. Instead of just taking first person that she came in the two in a BMW thinking that she has the money, no big deal. Validating some information, checking her references off. Obviously, a lot of stuff I've learned from you know who Jeffrey Taylor's is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mr.
that guy.
Landlord.
Yes, that dude is amazing. So I learned a lot of tricks and strategies from
Oh yeah.
him
I got to
moving
get him
forward.
on the podcast. I saw him 8 months ago or so, and we talked, and I wanted to get him on the show. But yeah, good guy. Like a simple thing that I've done is just make sure I outsource to a third party
Yeah.
the tenant background screening. And there's a lady I use out of Illinois who's just phenomenal. And you
Yep.
would be shocked at all the deals that she's done with me. How many times she has found people that falsify bank statements, like
Yes.
will make them up. They'll go
Yes.
in and then they'll put in as previous landlords, friends of theirs, and that
Yes.
landlord will that friend will pretend to be a landlord. And
Yes.
she's even got to she'll dig so deep she'll like she'll contact a previous landlord, but she'll look in the county records to see if that person is the actual owner of that house, right? She
Oh,
will,
right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
she will call the employers to verify paycheck stubs, and she'll call the banks to verify bank statements. And it's amazing to me how many times she'll catch people with fake checks, paycheck stubs, fake bank statements,
Wow.
fake employers. And so if you get somebody good like that, right?
Yeah.
That's going to save you guys a ton of hassles. Ton of hassles.
She is very, very good because I don't see a lot of people that do that. And it almost sounds like she's done a Jeffrey Taylor's training program because
Well, you know
that's a
what?
lot of the stuff that he talks
I'm
about.
going to
I mean,
tell you
that's the
guys
stuff that
who
I
this is.
learned.
ltservices.us. All right, I'm going to put this on the show banner there. ltservices.us. Her name is Carla. Tell her hello for me. And her website is LT Services. That stands for Landlord Tenant Services.us. ltservices.us. Just tell her I don't get anything out of referring business to her, but she's good people. Even though she's in Illinois. Don't tell her I said that. But so cool. Yeah. Tenant background screening is super, super important. And it's important you have somebody on your team that does it for you. I don't trust necessarily the online background screening companies, because you're going to, you just don't know if they're going to catch all that stuff. And Alex, I think you froze. Are you still there? Might have lost Alex, but while he's coming back, I want to just go through a few of the comments here. John says the original gangster. I don't know if he's talking about me or Alex, right? David says, hey guys from Illinois. Franco, you were one of the first guys who I started listening to when I was doing fix and flips. Nice. I think Alex is coming back. There he is. Alex, he's back. I think you froze. Are you still there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're back. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I got a call that came in and was trying to get it out and it bounced out the mic.
Hey, real quick though, Hannah says, hey everybody, east side of Michigan. Love Michigan.
Yeah, nice.
Shari from who says wow. Sorry. And then Jake from the YouTubes. What's up? Watching from Orlando. Glad you're here, Jake. Cool. And guys, if you have any questions too, please post them here in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. Give us a thumbs up, like the video, give us a heart, thumbs up, whatever it is that you're watching. We'd really appreciate it. And share this video if you like. So we all have bad stories, right? We all have bad stories of deals that gone bad, deals that went good. I really like what you said earlier about how this was a bad deal. And you told the seller, listen, how much are you going to pay me to buy this house from you? Right.
Right.
And you told the seller they had to pay $28,000. Is that what you said?
That's right. It was like 28. I made up some number. I mean, I knew the number, what it was going to cost to help me do the fix up. It was pretty much cosmetic because a lot of stuff was already done. New roof, new HVAC, all this stuff, but it needed the interior to be done and updated. And so I basically based it on that. I really didn't want it. I figured they were going to say, no big deal. And they were like, okay, who do I make the check out to? I'm like, oh, crap. And so I quickly had to spin out. I mean, I pretty much kind of knew, from a creative standpoint, what my exit strategies were going to be because I was looking at the sub-market there in LA and what I needed to do. And so I figured that out. I started pre-marketing before as soon as I got the deal, they cut me the check. We signed the documents, open title and everything else. And right as soon as I got the title commitment, I started doing the marketing right away. I started finding people, and it was one of the local neighbors, had their family members come in, saw the property, liked it, locked it up. By the time I was finishing up doing the granite countertops in the kitchen and whatnot, and got it all set up, it was done.
Nice. All right. So one of the things we were talking about before are some different creative ways that you do lease option deals in Texas. Will you talk about how you structure them a little bit?
Depending on the deal, how much work it needs from rehab, days on the market, what's the comps, what's the valuations there. Lease options in Texas basically are limited to up to 6 months. If you got the property, you own it, and then you're going to do it out. You can buy them all day long with the lease option. So there's different things that you can do. I would do it with the lease purchase program, is what I called it. And I would do it with the lease, but then I'd give them the first right of refusal modified by one of my attorneys to meet the state regulations. That way it's a different instrument. It's not an option. It's a first right of refusal. So an option basically leaves one or the other out to get out of it, whatever the case is, but there's going to be a loss, as you understand that, right? So with this one, it's pretty much paid out this first right of refusal, and then it's their decision to make that move when I decide to sell it, right? So at that point, but we already have an agreement with the lease part of it that they understand it. So They got the first right of refusal. I can't say anything about it. They got to buy it. That's pretty much it, unless they waive their right to purchase it.
That's really good. I know some investors even in St. Louis, Missouri, that do that. They just
Oh,
keep it super
nice.
simple, and they just say, "Listen, we'll call it a lease option, lease purchase, whatever you want, but we just keep it super simple. We're going to give you a lease, and you have the right of first refusal to buy it anytime between now and 2 years." And
Right.
they tell them what that price will be. Is that right? So you tell them what the price will
Correct.
be that they'll buy it for,
Correct.
and so that's cool. You just
Well,
had an attorney.
it depends on your document. It'll either have that strike price or not, because the option document has usually a strike price,
Yeah.
and it can have a range, if depending on how you have it worded, whatever. But the first right of refusal a lot of times won't even have that. So depending on your document, so that's just a variable that you got to watch out for.
So
What you
how do
got
you
to
like to do it though?
I'll give them a strike price based on, and I'll tell them that it's going to be based on appraisal at that time. So I will pull an appraisal. I'll pay for it. Comes up, they're ready to buy it, then they can buy it.
At the whatever the appraised price is.
Correct.
And if they don't want to buy it, they don't
Then
have
they
to.
just waive their right to it. We sign a document, and that's pretty much it. And then they
And
can
then
leave.
the lease
Depending on what
ends.
I'm going to do. Right.
Yeah, the lease ends. So do you still collect a kind of an option deposit or some kind of what kind of
It's not an
security?
option deposit. It's first right of refusal deposit.
So how much is that approximately? How much you charge for that?
It varies, but it can be, and it's typically more. It's somewhere in the range of give or take about $5,000.
Okay.
It's not a lot of money in that sense.
And
And
it's
I will, of
refundable
course, they understand it does get applied to the
applied.
purchase
Yeah.
if they decide to buy it, so they get a credit because they pay for that option. I mean
Very, very cool.
that that right.
They pay $5,000 for the right of first refusal to
Correct.
buy that property. Nice. All
Right.
right. And you typically do it for 1 or 2 years?
I'll do it based on the lease. So if the lease is a 1 year, if this is what they're trying to do, then I'll structure it to meet the need of what the buyer wants, the tenant buyer, right?
Okay.
If they think that they're not going to be able to put their stuff together financially for at least 2 years because they need to bring up some more money for a down payment, and they need some more credibility, get their credit fixed or whatever the case is, I'll structure it for 2 years, especially if
Okay.
I'm doing great cash flow.
Yeah. Good. What is good cash flow for you? 300 a month, 500 a month?
Every deal is different, but for the most part, if I'm off hands, I mean, I pretty much look at anything above 300,
Okay.
net after all payments are made a month.
What's your sweet spot too for price range? Is it, 100, 150,000? Will you do these kinds of creative deals on like $50,000 homes?
Yeah, those are even super easier to do, to deal with. So it's really not bad at all. The sweet spot pretty much for something like this is more in the local market here in Houston, is probably about between, give or take, about 120 to about 180, 200, something like that. It's probably about that range for that type of structure.
So you said that bad deal was a deal like that was 300 and something thousand in an
That
area
was
where there's about 100.
320,000, right?
Yeah. So do you think one of the problems was that it was just the right house in the wrong neighborhood, or was that just overpriced? You shouldn't have done anything with it.
No, that house was actually priced right in the right neighborhood where with that area. But the long-term effect for that property, my exit strategy was basically to hold it and get it paid off. Because
Okay.
when I did the subject to, when I took it over, it was a 30-year amortization, and then it had, I believe that one was roughly about 15 years left on the loan, 14, 15 years, something like that. So
Okay.
I thought 15 years, I get this paid off. The area's going up, booming. So I figured that's one of the ones that that was one of the things that I learned from one of my first mentors. If you ever come across something like that and it's 15 years or less, do you think you're going to jump out of the industry at that point? No. So jump on it, try hold on as long as you can for something that you think you want to hold, and look at the path of progress. where's the real estate market and the micro markets, if you want to call it that, around Houston, around San Antonio, within the city, within the loops, certain, west side of town, whatever the case is. This area is starting to boom. They're re-gentrifying the area, whatever the case is, and then structure and build those to build your portfolio, whether
Yeah.
it be notes or rentals.
So do you just put a regular tenant in that kind of a house then, if it's something you want to hold for a long term?
Correct.
Do you ever do you ever do seller financing on a long-term note in one of those properties you want to hold? Like, would you ever do just a straight up owner financing, where there is no balloon? It's just a 30-year AM note. They can
Yes.
finance it from you for 30 years if they want, right?
Yes. I don't do the balloons anymore, with some of the rules that's
Right.
changed, right? So I don't do those balloons anymore. If they want to cash me out, I actually put a first right of refusal on them cashing me out.
So explain
I've
that.
added that little clause into my documents when I do an owner finance. If they're going to go refi, and let's just say they only get a point and a half. I'm at 3 points. When I sold them at 9.9%, they only get it down to maybe 7.5 or whatever. I'll say I'll match it because I'm still getting a lot of cash flow.
Ah,
I mean, it's crazy. So I'll reset it, redo it, re-trigger and reset it for another 30 years for them, or 15, whatever they want. I can sit there and structure that note for them. No
that's
big deal.
really, really smart. I hope you guys caught that. What he's saying is, if you're selling a house on owner financing and they want to go out and get their own financing from Chase, right? Alex is saying, no, I'm going to give them the right of first refusal. I want the right to either beat or match that same rate, those same terms that Chase is giving them.
Exactly.
So that you can then hold on to that note yourself, right? And keep the cash flow that you got,
Right.
so that you can pay that house off in 15 years on your end. And then you're still getting then 30 more years of cash flow from that tenant.
Correct. Yeah.
Smart. I love that. Cool. All right. So talk about marketing. What marketing do you see is working? Oh, no. Before we get to marketing, I want to go back to the houses and the price ranges, right? So what are you
Okay.
doing with the low end homes? The properties that are in the C and D neighborhoods that are like under $100,000. What are you doing with those?
I wholesale a lot of those.
Okay. Yeah.
Depending on where that property's at for location, um, I'll buy it, fix it, and then just rent it out. And they just stay rentals. That's it. Because, I mean, if you buy something cash or whatever the case is, and you create the rental part of it, I mean, it kind of pays for itself in like 2 years,
Yeah.
you know, two,
Do you
three
find though,
years, and
like
then
you
it's
get
just infinite cash flow.
in those lower end homes, you get a different quality tenant in those kinds of homes?
Yeah, you do. Of
So they
course,
harder to
right?
manage then?
It's more babysitting, a little bit more time consuming, but I think if you structure it, of course, what I've learned, through in the past, structuring the tenant and what the rules are, and then just applying them right off the bat, so that way they don't run over you or they don't try to pull the wool over your eyes. It's kind of, this is the way it's going to work. This is the checklist. This is what you got to follow. Here goes the rules. You either like it or you don't. But at the same token, I try to give as much as I can to that tenant. So I know that their birthday is on November the 19th, so they're going to get a card with a gift card. I know that they like Starbucks, or they like coffee, but they don't go to Starbucks because they're in that class, right? But I can sit there and put them and give them a better experience as a landlord. And then that way they enjoy, they'll appreciate, they'll call me when they need something versus not tell me. And then there's things that need to be fixed and they don't tell you. And then it's growing mold, and then they try to file against you, whatever the case is. So all these variables, right? So I try to sit there and at least give them a good experience, be genuine with them, try to help them out. And I look at them as a client, not just a tenant, you know?
Yeah. Jeffrey Taylor talks a lot about that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's good stuff. It's a business. You got to run it like a business.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about marketing real quick, Alex. What are you seeing working best right now for marketing to get seller leads? Then I want to ask you about the marketing you're finding working best for buyers.
Okay. Marketing for seller leads.
Mm-hmm.
I basically do a series of uh, issues, what they're the type, pre-foreclosure, They've done some loan mods, maybe divorce, high equity, out of state owners, stuff like that. So there's a bunch of variables and everything in between, some driving for dollars. I mean, when you're going out to a property and you're going to go talk to a seller, a lot of times you could sit there and find like 3 to 5 to 10, property leads just in that area.
By driving for dollars.
Exactly. So you're having to drive the comps. If you know what you're doing and you're good at it, and you know how to be a master fisherman, you master your craft, right? You get out there, you know what you're going to sit there and pitch to the seller. You know that area. You know the houses that they're saying that sold, didn't sold. Well, yeah, but they had this. Yours doesn't have this. Their lot's bigger. Yours is 5,000. Theirs is 12,000. Big difference. That's a corner lot versus an interior lot. What all the variables are. So for me, that works. The list type. So mail campaigns from letters, professional letters to postcards, handwritten postcards. So there's some variables there. I'm currently creating our own branding of postcards and basically, I guess if you want to call it sell copy, to put that on there and kind of how I see it. And when I'm talking to a seller, what do I see lights their eyes up when I'm talking to them? If I mention this, this, and this, then it works. And so I'm kind of creating that for our own campaign to make the phones ring a lot better. And I get a lot of that, actually. We do pretty good with some of that stuff.
So direct mail is your favorite?
Direct mail is my favorite. I'm not an IT guy.
Okay.
As you can see, I have technical difficulties with some of this stuff sometimes.
It's all right, man. So do you have a mail house, a favorite mail company that you like to use?
There's a couple. Well, I got a local distribution company. It's just a print shop, but they do it as well. There's another guy that I have, and I can send you his information. His name's Alan. He's out of, I don't know if you know Alan, out of Arizona.
The guy who owns the REIA, the Arizona REIA?
No. He's and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I could send you his information, and then you can add that to this. It's like DMZ, something like that. I forgot what it's called. But he's a print shop company that does mail distributions in mass. So
cool.
I'm sending them off list of 10,000 a week or whatever the case is, and he does a lot of stuff. He's got his own stuff. He's a small kind of mom and pop type shop.
Yeah.
But a really, really good guy.
What are you finding working good for marketing for tenants and buyers?
Tenants, if you're buying the deal right, depending on the location, right? For me, it depends. You got a property that is, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 house, that kind of rental, or you have a $180,000, $220,000 house, which is the median. I think the median price here is about $250 now. But if you're looking at something like that, about 200 something thousand, then I look at the area, I'll look at the local schools, or I'll put it on the MLS. MLS, when you're looking at your stuff, you look at days on the market, goes really fast. If it's not something that you see a lot of activity, I'll look at the local area, look at the churches. I'll map everything out on Google Maps, and I'll look at the commercials. You got your banks, whatever. Get that information online. You get their address, you get their fax number. You start sending stuff out. You get a lot of leads from that kind of stuff.
So you're saying contacting the commercial businesses.
Yeah, and then you send out a flyer when you get their fax number. Send out a flyer to them. This house is for rent. Like it's in your backyard, that kind of thing. It's close by, whatever. Check it out. And then there's usually a link so that way they can go and see the interior pics. They'll get more information. If they're interested, they can call and go from there.
It's a great idea. Great idea. Never thought of that.
Thanks.
Are you still doing signs in the neighborhood, Craigslist, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, things like that?
I don't do Facebook for like the wholesale deals. I'll do Facebook. I have a website also, mypropertydealsusa.com. So I'll blast deals. If I'm going to do wholesaling on those, I'll post those on there. And then what else? I don't really do Craigslist at all.
I haven't done
Okay.
Craigslist in a long time, actually.
Yeah, not a
So
lot.
most
Not
of
a
my
lot
stuff
of
comes
people
pretty
are.
fast.
If you've got a good deal, it's easy to find buyers.
Exactly. And I got a
Um,
buyer's list as well. So one of the things that we help out a lot, like when I'm teaching and helping other people, other students out, and we're just networking, we're talking about stuff, and we talk about strategies and whatnot, or negotiations or creative finance or whatever. They get a deal and they need help. Sometimes they need help for me to just get that blasted out because I got a pretty strong list doing it 20 years. So then I'll do that, blast it out. I'll do an email blast and stuff like that, and it comes back, and we help each other out.
Good. Okay, cool. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started in real estate? They want to do more creative deals. It can be pretty overwhelming, if somebody is new to the
Yes.
business, and where do you tell them to start?
Uh, if they don't know anything about the business, I think there's several factors that you have to consider for any individual. Um, One being the tools and the resources, their knowledge, their experience, and their risk factor. Okay. So it's funny you asked that because I have a book that I'm writing, and and I haven't really figured out the title yet, but it's pretty much REI Puzzle Simplified. So it's real estate investing puzzle simplified.
Okay.
So I'm putting this together, and what I'm trying to show, and I have a chart in there to show basically if you wanted to say you wanted to go up the corporate ladder to be a CEO, these are the steps you need to start from when you started as a janitor to this, get up to the CEO status, right? So in this particular case, it's either you're bird dogging or you're wholesaling, because if you don't have any money, then you need to build your money from somewhere, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, in my opinion, the strongest thing to do is wholesaling. That is your foundation for everything. Because in wholesaling, you learn how to estimate repairs, you learn how to negotiate, you learn how to market, you know how to become a fisherman.
Hmm.
Learn how to start to slice and dice based on what they're sending you and how to respond to those type of scenarios, those issues, those situations. And now you get to learn how to put something together, wholesale that, make the money, you put that in the account, you do more marketing, you keep on building it up, then you get into a rental. Because everybody, you get into a rental, if you got a bad tenant and you were like me, fortunately, I was very aggressive with wholesaling. I did very well, even though I lost money.
Yeah.
I still did well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that don't. I was already in it 5 years wholesaling before I did my first major rehab and my
Yeah.
first that particular big rental that I lost a lot of money on.
Yeah.
So for me, it's wholesaling. Find you a coach, somebody like yourself or like myself that has, wisdom on your face,
More
all the
gray
gray
hair, the
hair gone,
better. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or minimized, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Funny.
Find somebody, and I say that, and this is just my experience, because you got people that fly in and they're trying to teach this stuff or whatever the case is, and they don't have a state law. So Texas is a different bird, right, from everybody else, and
Oh
how
yeah.
they do stuff in state regulations.
Oh yeah.
Hence the lease option niche.
Hmm.
So I think if somebody new coming into this business, understand all the components, and then understand those 5 key variables, what you have available to you, what your risk tolerance, what can you afford to lose, not lose, whatever the case is, so you know where to step and how to build it up before you start building rentals. Because if you get
Yeah.
a bad tenant, you get a bad contractor, you can't rehab, all these variables, right? Then you can get into, lending money. Once you're building that cash flow, you can be a lender, you can get into commercial. Now you can go straight to commercial if you want, but again, it's with, what are you following? Are you syndicating? Are you going to be a passive investor with another key mentor or coach? Find a mentor or coach. That would be my number one thing. Um, Somebody that's actually in the trenches doing it, or that has a lot of experience and has a portfolio and whatever. So
Very
I
good.
think that would be key. Read as much as you can. Uh, get out there and start knocking on doors. The more time that you get in front of a seller, the more education you're going to get.
Oh, yeah.
Reading the books is one thing. You could sit there and be smart and think you're a guru and all this other stuff, like a lot of these yahoos out there in the business. They're preaching book stuff that you've written, other guys that I know that have written, and they're sitting there speaking about this stuff, but they don't actually have street experience. They don't have contracts behind them from A to Z that they closed on their own. And I know this firsthand because I know some people out there. And it blows my mind that they're doing this and they're trying to teach these people. But then when somebody is in a hardship situation where they got this deal under contract, because you told me to do this, that, and other, whatever, but now I don't know how to get out of it. Now I'm facing a legal issue. And then it burns them. It like blows up their house right away. So it becomes an issue versus going to somebody that actually has experience, that has, multitude of years and actual transactions behind it. So, I mean, I've gotten probably, and I haven't counted, I lost count, but I know I went back and I started trying to dissect numbers, and I got I know I got over 1,000 units under my belt, hands down.
That's awesome.
Between all the stuff local and everything else.
That's awesome. That's way more than
you have a lot as well.
I don't have 1,000.
Huh?
I don't have 1,000 deals. But I totally agree with what you're saying. Right. Totally agree. Howard here has a good comment. He says, start with lease options, low risk. I totally agree. Don't use your money. That's a good thing to think about, right? Yes. Use the tenant buyer's money to pay the seller and make a $5,000, $10,000 fee or higher.
Correct.
It's really good advice, Howard.
Yeah.
Jai or Hi says Alex is a genius with that one. He wrote this when you were talking about the right of first refusal on the owner financing.
Oh yeah.
I love that. And Sherry, sorry, I've got her name wrong. It's Sherry. Cool. Glad you guys are all here. Alex, how can people get a hold of you if they want more information, they want to partner with you or talk to you about what you've got going on?
They can call either, I'll give a couple of numbers and the information. The website, as I mentioned, from the educational side, just to network and partner, whatever, if there's anything I can help out, I'm glad. They can go to iflipnation.com.
Okay, cool.
That's going to be the website. It's not live yet, but it's supposed to go live. The template's structured and everything. So that'll be coming live, I believe, if not the end of this week, next week.
Yes. iflipnation.com. It'll be up soon, ASAP.
Yeah. Otherwise, cool. Our office number is 832
cool
308 3330.
832, say it again.
308 3330.
There it is. Look at that. 832-308-3330.
Yeah.
Cool.
And definitely let me know that Joe McCall sent you. And then that way I'll definitely help you guys out and give some bonuses out. Speaking of, I was going to do something for you guys too, but
yeah. You want to talk about it?
Well, I was just going to give, because of the creative stuff, I know a lot of people talk about like different things. I was going to do a chart on like I figured out that I can slice a deal about 16 ways, from the front end options to the back end options, and which correlate. So I'm working on that chart, and I'll complete it. But what I was going to do is give away, maybe if people were interested, if they wanted like a checklist or something for subject twos, I'll be glad to give out that checklist blueprint that I have.
Nice. Good. So contact Alex at iflipnation.com when it's available, or phone number 832-308-3330. Thanks so much, Alex, for being on the show. Appreciate it very much. Let's go Astros. Come on, let's pick it up. They're behind.
Astros.
they're behind the Nationals right now, 2-0.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that stinks. But there's still plenty of baseball left to play. So.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks again, guys. If you want the show notes to this podcast, if you go to realestateinvestingmastery.com, realestateinvestingmastery.com to get the show notes, you can even get the transcription of this podcast, get the phone number, the links, and all that stuff that we talked about. They're all in the show notes. Go to realestateinvestingmastery.com, and it's all there. Thanks again. We'll see you guys. See you, Alex. Take care, man.
Joe, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.